Typical disgusting display.
Oh, tonight we got them. Goldy, the Sulk, and JC.
The typical disgusting display. And it starts right now.
Oh, welcome back to another episode of A Typical Wait a minute. Strike.
Right.
Union power. Norma Ray. Pencils down means pencils down. Hollywood's a union town. But hey, I am holding the strike down here on Cape Cod. No one is crossing my line, my friend. I got eyes on the picket line.
Are you out picketing the abandoned set of wings?
I'm
First
sorry.
joke of the day. First joke of the day.
Do you think, I love that for that joke, the set of wings was actually on Nantucket or wherever it was supposed to be. Yeah, so obviously we're in a strike. We'll be talking about it with our guest, Justin Halpern, later. We're excited to talk to him. Here's some shit Justin says.
Yes.
And of course, we did for you listeners, we gave you an emergency podlet last week with David Goodman,
Yes,
filled
thank
with
you,
nuggets
David.
about the strike. So we don't have to talk about it up top. Let's talk about something else, Goldy. You got anything else to talk about today up top?
Well, I know we're on strike, so you couldn't think of anything to talk about. So here's mine.
Easy Robespierre.
Couple things. First, I was in the ER with another one of my kids. I'm a frequent visitor there. So now when I show up, I'm like, hey, Jerry. Hi, Dan.
It's like when Norm walks into Cheers. Is
They all know me at Children's Hospital now. They're like, oh, he's back.
No.
Good to see you. So this time, one of my kids went to a sleepover, was dribbling a basketball, which somehow wound up bouncing up a little piece of glass that stuck in her eyeball.
What?
Oh, no.
And
Wow,
so we had to
that's
pick her
awful.
up from the sleepover. She was so upset. And my wife, I hate eyeballs and toenails. It's just something
they're
about
awful.
me. I
Yeah.
don't want to deal with them. So she's got this little chunk of glass in her eyeball that she had actually, by weeping so hard, she had cried it out. But then,
Whoa.
we're wondering, like, does that mean we thought maybe the glass had gone behind her eye or whatever? So anyway, of course, it's never at noon.
No.
The medical disaster is never
Right,
at a
of
nice,
course.
convenient time where you're like, I'll just, it's my lunch break anyway. I'll go to the ER at Children's and hang out and get something from the vending machine. It's like 9 p.m. and your kid's all unhinged and you're
Right.
unhinged. And so my wife, to her credit, stayed. They only allow one parent in, by the way, now
I
because of
didn't know that.
COVID. So,
right.
no one wants the dad in there.
Yeah. No, you need
No one's
mom.
like,
You need mom.
Yeah, no one's like, I'm hurt. Where's dad?
Right.
I want my dad.
Yeah, no one's ever said that. So my wife's with them and with my daughter, and I stay up. I don't know. I go to get them around 1 a.m. Everything's fine, by the way, thank God.
Yes,
So we get home, and just to preface this, before this happened, I'm as tired as I've ever been. Of
course.
Like there's a lot going on. I'm not doing great. So then this happens, and normally I go to bed at 9:30, 10. So now we're at 1:30,
Thin air.
and my daughter's in my spot in my bed with my wife, and so I'm in her bed, and but I'm like, okay, I'm finally able to go to bed.
Yeah.
I'll be fine. The dog comes up
Oh no.
next to my head
Oh.
and throws up
No.
immediately at 1:30 in the morning. So now he's sick.
Oh my God.
And so then
Lloyd.
I changed the covers, which I hate doing in the middle of the night, but as a parent, because
Yep.
you piss your own and shit your own bed, you have to do this a lot.
Right.
So I changed the covers. At 2:30, he barfs again on the new covers.
Lloyd.
And then I'm like, am I going to be the guy who sleeps in dog barf? 'cause
Because you're
I'm
too
like,
tired.
no, I'm a human being with dignity.
Yes.
So I changed them again. But so that's going into my day. So, but the next day I have scheduled, very important, a video analysis of my golf swing.
Yes, this is the real stuff now.
So,
you don't want to be tired
because
of
I've
that.
decided it's not some middle-aged crisis. I don't actually want to be good at golf, but
Yes, it is. It is.
it isn't. I'm going to explain why I'm doing this. So my wife, has this nice group of friends, and there are these mom groups on Facebook that are very socially fulfilling, where they go and they talk about how horrible we all are, and they get enormous gratification out of trading stories about what pieces of shit they are, and they have a sympathetic ear. But guys don't really have this, right? Like this mom group, this was a few years ago that, the mom group was very successful. And so some of the moms had the idea of like, well, why don't we get the guys together in their own group? And the guy group, it lasted maybe 4 days. And literally like the posts on the guy group were like, does anyone know how to change a diaper? Like, they were so stupid. No one wanted to be in it. And no one wanted to have it. But
God.
So I've recently had good friends and friends who I don't get to see very much invite me to go golfing with them. And I want to be able to do this because it's a way of maintaining a connection.
Yes.
But I'm so bad.
Yes,
that
I understand that.
That I can't do it in a way that doesn't embarrass me and anger everyone how slow I'm going on the golf course and how bad I am. So the only golf experience I've had is when I was in high school. One time they took out a bunch of doormats and like a bunch of old irons, and they showed us like, here's how you hit a golf ball. And so I learned that. And then during the last writer's strike, actually, I got the book Ben Hogan. It was called like Ben Hogan's 5 Lessons or something. And so Ben Hogan was a golfer in, I don't know, the 30s or whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
So I read this
In the
book
30s.
and I did the lessons, and then I went to the driving range a few times, but that's all I know about golf. And so then to buy clubs, I was like, I went on eBay and I bought Ben Hogan clubs. So
Nice.
Arnold Palmer would look at Ben Hogan and go, this is an old piece of shit, right? So like literally all my equipment is just totally
old.
archaic. And
Decades.
And I've read a book that was written in the 40s about how to swing a golf club. So I go to get my swing videotaped, and this guy like looks at my clubs, and he's just like, what? Why are you here? Just
Is this a joke?
genuinely puzzled. And in my mind, like, I work out and stuff, and I'm going, and I've always been decently coordinated. I'm not an athlete, but I've always felt like I'm fine.
Right.
And the other thing about Ben Hogan was he was in a massive car accident.
Huge.
Yeah, famously. This is like the only fact about Ben Hogan.
And then he came back and
then he
won
came
the
back
US
and
Open.
he was pretty good.
holy-
So
I didn't know that.
I get my swing videotaped, and I in my mind the swing looks a certain way. When they showed me my swing, I swear to God, I looked like Ben Hogan a minute after the accident. Like I could not believe it was like an undead skeleton. Like I'm bald. I was like, because I see video of myself. I'm not naive to how I look. We watch clips for the podcast, and I think
Sure.
I'm always like, I look fine. Like I look how I look, and I feel pretty good. Dude, I look so bad that it has sent me into a depressive spiral.
Oh,
That
no.
explains the robe. You're wearing a robe.
Well, the robe is
today.
we're on strike. And
Yeah, that's
I'm
your
not-
solidarity robe.
Yeah. You're wearing a robe. As I
But
called
I
you
mean,
earlier,
do
the medium
you
robe.
either you golf?
No, I've only been to the driving range.
I used to. My grandfather was quite a good golfer. He was like, club champion at the Jewish Belmont Country Club outside Boston in the 50s. And so he used to take me golfing. And I kind of liked it. I enjoyed it. And I felt like I was decent. Then I didn't play forever. And then I started playing right before, like maybe 8-9 years ago. I would go to the ranges in Koreatown and I would start playing. And I kind of got into it, but like it's like anything. I don't commit. I don't think I'm good enough anyway. So it's just like, why bother?
Right.
Yeah, I just want to be able to, go with my friends and not embarrass myself. But then when I know how I look now, and that's what
Yeah.
everyone is seeing, and I have to take a lot of strokes, like
Right.
100 at least.
Are you taking lessons now?
I am gonna go back to this video place, and to the guy's credit, it's this place called Golf Tech.
Okay.
Within an hour, like my after swing was way better than my before swing.
Oh, good.
Like, there
good.
was some progress, so I'm cautiously optimistic that I can get to the point where I shoot under 100 and don't embarrass myself.
Yeah.
God,
But-
shooting under 100 is going to be a tall order. I mean, that's tough.
You have
I mean,
he has goals.
We have a lot of time now.
yeah.
I guess so. Well, I mean,
I can't work.
yeah, now it's all golf. Well, one of the pleasures you'll get from playing golf is you'll get to play with John Viner, who's not asked to be a part of this podcast, but he's an incredible golfer, can drive the ball like 280 yards off the tee. His first bad shot, he goes completely off the rails, and you'll get to watch him just fall apart.
I've played with him
Film it.
before and, seen clubs hurled into the woods. Sand traps savagely attacked as though they were being
Amazing.
subject to a mob beating.
He just broke a driver over his head like Bo Jackson with a bat.
Just picture a handsome guy in pink shorts going totally mental.
That's him. That's our John. And maybe you'll get to play with Tom and John, Tom Devani and John, which is also a great pleasure.
Yeah.
We've talked about this a long time ago, but Tom is the biggest asshole in the funniest way on the golf course. You're supposed to be quiet when somebody's in their backswing. Tom will use that time to clear his throat or open and close his Velcroed glove. It's unbelievable.
I mean, the good news for me is, a distraction like that can't even make me worse. I'm not good enough for it to throw me off. Like, there's no swing for it to throw off, because what I do, I got to show you this video.
We have to see it. We have to see it so we can post it.
Yeah, it is like an undead. It's like if a skeleton was also unhealthy.
I love that you're back in the skeleton area. It's so skeletal
It's
for you.
so bad.
So are you is it like you're a skinny Charles Barkley? Is it that kind of swing, or?
I'm so hunched, and then the club is way too close to my body, so it has nowhere to go. So it's just raised above my head and then brought down in such, and in my mind, I'm not lifting the club that high, but like in the video, I've got it like cocked like a baseball bat
Yeah.
behind my ear, and then I bring it down with this incredibly ugly and awkward chop motion. And then I kind of follow through. The follow through looks okay.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
That's the beginning.
Once you're done fucking it all up.
But what they
then-
do is they
then you can
split screen
recover.
your swing with a professional golfer swing, and
That's
then they
not
just
good.
start pointing stuff out. I don't know. It was pretty interesting.
God.
Cool.
Well, we certainly wish you luck with that, and we do want
Thanks.
that video so we can post it.
Yes,
as
I
well.
will
please.
get it for you.
And I guarantee that swing will be funnier than what we have coming next, which are Johnny jokes.
Whoa, from Hollywood, where nothing is happening for the next year, here's Johnny.
I hope it's not that long.
Well, I had these done a few days ago. Thought I was sitting pretty, just reread them. Am sitting ugly. Here we go. Well, film director Denis Villeneuve said in a recent interview that the second part of the Dune saga was filmed entirely in IMAX. Yeah. The director hopes this will give the viewer a totally immersive falling asleep experience. Boring movie.
Imagine 3D sand.
Oh, can you picture it? A law firm in Texas is being sued by one of their own lawyers after he claims he was fired for being gay. The firm is pushing back, saying they didn't know he was gay. They just knew he loved quashing subpoenas.
Oh,
Quashing subpoenas.
very Alec joke.
That's
And-
pretty good.
Thank you. Here's something to ruin it all. As part of the San Francisco ballet season, they will be putting on a version of Swan Lake with all plus-sized ballerinas. The troupe says they are excited and they're looking forward to getting out there in their 3/3s.
I can see your face. You're having a hard time saying it.
Oh, all right. Sorry about that. 3 threes. And finally, thank God.
Those are good.
A leading U.S. oncologist stated in a recent interview that oral sex is a leading factor in the recent explosion of throat cancer in women. Whatever I can do to keep my wife safe. Take it away, Johnny.
Crop. That was a very good crop.
Lucky.
Okay. Well, after rumors of ill health, actor Jack Nicholson attended a Lakers game, his first public appearance in over a year. And his fans were relieved to see he still looks like a complete psychopath.
I believe it.
Okay. Well, I don't know if you heard about this. On Saturday night, 4 UFOs were spotted hovering for several hours over the Las Vegas Strip. Apparently, they were waiting to see if their buddy could get them into the club. Well, medical news. There is a national shortage of both Adderall and Ozempic.
No.
The government is warning all citizens to be on the lookout for fat maniacs. And this was a nice story. Michael Jackson's former pet, Bubbles the chimp, celebrated his 40th birthday this week. And Bubbles said it was a relief to only be blowing on candles.
Oh my God.
You did it. You did it, you son of a bitch.
And I got a Norm. And finally we got a Norm.
Yeah.
Okay. This week, the Pope went on a secret peace mission to the Ukraine because who gets more respect in a war zone than an elderly virgin?
Yes. Oh, boy, that was good. Guys, we have a fantastic and timely guest with us here today. He created the wildly popular, followed by millions Twitter page Shit My Dad Says that was then turned into a CBS sitcom, creator of many shows, and he is now the showrunner of the Emmy-winning Abbott Elementary. Folks, please welcome Justin Halpern.
Yay,
Thank you
welcome.
for being with us today.
No, thank you for that very nice intro. You could send that to my parents. That'd be great.
Now, that's interesting you bring that up first because we're going to talk about the strike because we're recording this on the day it all went down. You're on the WGA board, so we want to get your take on the whole
You
situation.
also have the most to lose because you're actually on a successful show.
I know. Yes. See if you can come up with a new chant that's like, strike, sort of, strike, shorten, strike,
Listen,
please.
if this guy can strike, the rest of us can strike because there's stakes for him.
I know. He's actually on something that's good, popular, and critically acclaimed. What is that like?
Yeah.
So, Justin, in reading up about you, and we talked a little bit about this before we started recording, you are the rarest of birds, a San Diego half-Jew. So your dad is Jewish and your mom is Catholic, which I find weirdly, and you can talk to this, but I think Jews and Catholics have a lot more in common than people discuss in the open. I just feel like there's sort of a lot of the anxiety and neuroses are shared between Jews and Catholics. Did you find that to be true growing up?
Yeah, they both like deeply hate themselves and
Yes.
also are always worried about money.
Yep.
So it's like my Catholic mom, both my parents grew up very, very poor. But like that was, I think that there's so many similarities to it. But it was funny because my mom's side is Italian and my dad's side, obviously Jew. And when one time we were like at a family reunion for the Italian side, and my dad was talking to one of my Italian side's very Italian. And he was talking to one of my Italian uncles and he was like, there's a lot of actually Jewish blood in Italians. And my uncle was just like, nah, it's not. So I think for whatever reason, they can't find the common ground, but it's there.
That's true. Oh my God, yes. And when you say Italian, because there's, as you said, there's anxiety, there's self-loathing, There's and also food based. Italians and Jews are very like everything is sort of centered around where are we eating, what are we eating, when are we eating.
Yes, 100%. And like what? Yeah, it's everything is food based. It's totally true.
Yeah. So growing up in the San Diego area, did you move there because your dad, who is a doctor, did you move there because he had to move there for a job, or how did you end up in the San Diego area?
Well, my dad was in the Navy. He was a doctor in the Navy. He was actually in the Tonkin Gulf incident, the boat that like started the Vietnam War.
Allegedly.
Yeah. No, actually, he wrote a book like basically saying the government lied about how the war started.
Yeah,
wow.
so that's the big rage. Because give us the thumbnail. It was like they said they were fired upon, and then the whole war started.
Yeah. So the thumbnail is that boat, the USS Maddox, is in the Tonkin Gulf. They say they're fired upon, and then they fire back, and the war starts. But my dad was on the ship, and he was like, "We fired on them every night for 7 nights, and they never fired back."
Wow.
And then finally he's like, "We hit something big, we don't know what we hit." And then they fired on us, and came really close to the boat, and then they're like, "It's wartime, let's go."
My
Wow.
God.
And now you've branded him as shit my dad says, so his credibility is completely gone.
Yeah, I like to reduce him to his lowest form. All
my
his
God.
prior accomplishments, the way he served his country, none of that matters. He has funny bon mots that made me rich, and that's what he'll be remembered.
Oh, and you hit Goldy's phrase that pays with bon mots. He loves that. So basically, the U.S. is sort of like Biff Tannen of the world. Like, we're going around just bullying, and then when it happens to us, we're like, what did we do? Maybe, do you know this much? Because I had heard, and I don't know if this is true, I don't know if you'd heard this, but I had heard that the captain or one of the higher-ups on that ship, the Maddox, it was Jim Morrison's dad. Did you ever hear that?
Wow, I did not hear that. I got to ask my dad about that. I did not hear that.
Ask him.
Yeah.
Ask him.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah, because Jim Morrison famously claimed that his parents had died in some horrible, roadside accident, and then it turned out they were both alive and well, and his dad was like a naval captain.
My dad would have known him because he was an officer. My dad was an officer because he was a doctor. He went through med school and stuff, so he was an officer. I do know my dad thinks the Doors suck.
Your dad would have known him because he probably treated his clap.
Well, that's what my dad was like. That's what he said. He said like because he was only in action for 9 days because that boat was then pulled after that attack. And he said that was the majority of his time in Vietnam was just like treating clap.
Oh my, that's hilarious. And also ask your dad maybe if he could identify, that was that officer who always wore leather pants. Maybe that would be him.
I mean, you're going to wind up with a story like Jim Morrison's dad. Yeah, I saw his dick. It's going to be like,
Dad,
great.
There are Italians here at dinner. You can't say that.
How rewarding.
So I guess that answers so Dad is still alive and well and saying shit.
Yeah, he says less of it, but he's 87.
Yeah.
Still lives in San Diego, still lives right next to the naval base where I grew up. And he occasionally tunes into the things that I do. And
what does he think of all of it?
My dad cares about horse racing. He likes baseball and horse racing.
Yeah.
And those are, if it's not in that world tangentially,
Right.
he's not paying that much attention. And he's also like a very old socialist, basically. Like so if it's not in those 3 worlds, he's not like really paying attention.
Because we had very similar dads, and just full disclosure here is this was probably about 5 years ago now. Justin and I had a bald guy date.
Nice.
I don't know if I approached you or you approached me, but we said, let's have dinner sometime. We went out to a lovely restaurant, and when people see 2 bald guys together, of course, they made us eat in the alleyway. And
out of the garbage lids.
It took 5 hours to get anyone to bring us anything, whatever. But we had a lovely time. But we have very similar backgrounds. My dad's passed away, but I'm wondering, like, my dad was in the military and then he was a doctor, and he he was supportive of what I did, but I would say he was not singularly impressed by it. But you've been so successful. Does your dad kind of give it up for you, or is he just kind of like, you could have been a jockey?
Well, I'm 6'2", so I couldn't have been a jockey. But he does say that the greatest athlete in the history of the world is Secretariat.
I agree. I agree with that 100%.
That was in our top
I
five.
tell your dad, my favorite thing is at least once a year I will watch Secretariat at the Belmont and weep.
He does. Oh my God, that's the only time I've seen my dad cry.
Yeah.
What?
But I totally get it. There's something so beautiful, and I love the quote.
I mean,
that
just when he was being whipped, and
No.
you knew if he didn't run even faster,
No.
he'd be mercilessly beaten. I mean,
did
it
not
just
need to be whipped.
so
that day.
inspirational.
Hey,
I'm gonna need to watch this.
Trackside observers said I I believed in Pegasus that day.
Wow.
His
Oh, then it's all worth it. If some scumbag with a cigar in his mouth believed in Pegasus, some
He did have a
drunk
cigar.
degenerate.
He did have a cigar.
One time I was like, I was like 10 and at breakfast, and my dad was reading the paper, and he just said to himself aloud, 33 1/3 lengths.
That's it.
The amount of distance that he was replaying it in his head. It was the amount of distance Secretariat won by in that race.
Wow.
Oh, it's one of my favorite quotes. If I ever read a book, which I won't because I hate writing, I'm too lazy. I might make the title "A Tremendous Machine" because I am not one. But that was the term that the announcer came up with on the spot when Secretariat was moving way ahead. He said he's moving like a tremendous machine. I love that. So your dad and I have that in common.
Maybe.
To answer your question, I think, like I definitely think he's said multiple times he's proud of me. He's into it. I mean, I played baseball growing up my whole life, and I played in college, and he loves baseball. And to
What
his
position?
credit, when I realized I was not going to make the major leagues, and I sort of got injured and I quit, he was like, look, as long as you're doing something that you're actually giving a shit about, if it's not baseball, I'll support you. And he did. He really did.
That's
I mean,
amazing.
You
not
must
like
have been good because San Diego, I mean,
And in college.
that's a year round, and the university there's real major leaguers. You must have played with actual people who made it.
Yeah. I played with a bunch of Mark Pryor and a bunch of, that's probably the big one. But yeah, I mean, I was like a middle reliever in college. So I was like good for if we were walking in the Americana, I would have been the best one there. But like, I think in college, there was lots of guys way better than me.
What was your walk-on music?
You know what's funny? So I was like trying to be funny, and I would put songs that I thought would be like I came out one time to Any Way You Want It, which I thought would be a fun message.
Like Rodney and Caddyshack, right?
Yeah.
The one I always wanted to do if I were a major leaguer would be Natalie Imbruglia's Torn. And I would just slowly, in a very depressed state, walk up to the mound.
Inspiring no confidence in your teammates. I love that. Your teammates would be shaking their heads. So Any Way You Want It, that's a good one.
That's
maybe some tradition from Fiddler on the Roof, something like that.
Fuck, I should have done that. That would have been amazing.
What was the best moment of your athletic career?
Probably giving up a home run to Chase Utley.
In retrospect.
Gosh, I think I threw 2 no-hitters in high school.
Oh, wow.
So maybe that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And were those were 7-inning games in high school?
Yeah, you actually want to know something crazy about my dad and those games. So my dad made every single game I ever pitched except for 2 games. In those 2 games, I threw no-hitters.
Oh, no.
There has to be a connection. You had to be more mentally free.
I think so.
You had to be.
Less pressure.
Oh, that's such a bummer for him, though.
Yeah, because but by the way, he missed them both for the Kentucky Derby.
No way. Oh, wow.
When you throw a no-hitter, I feel like they need to apply a rule to this because they always screw it up. Like, the catcher doesn't know whether to jump into the pitcher's arms, and the pitcher doesn't know whether to jump in the catcher's arms. So there's this kind of like awkward standstill, and they both kind of jump, and it's very unsatisfying. But I feel like the pitcher should jump into the catcher's arms.
To make the catcher catch.
Right. Pitcher.
Yeah.
Catcher.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I think that's true. A catcher is usually a sturdier guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Somebody who also somebody who it feels good to be embraced by a catcher.
Yeah.
You feel safe and taken care of in a catcher's arms.
Right.
And then the catcher should carry the pitcher off like they've just been married, and it's a Bugs Bunny.
Right.
The end of an officer and a gentleman.
gentleman.
Yeah. No, but so Justin, did you were you mobbed by your teammates both times?
Kinda. I think if people jumped around, I think it was high school, so I think some people were like high and didn't even know it happened. People were, I think we jumped around and that was it. It wasn't as like great as I thought it was going to be.
Right.
I love that. I love that. Oh my God.
Better thrills from show business or from athletics in your life?
Athletics, 1,000%. Not even close.
Oh, that's so interesting. Well, let's
Not
talk
even
about
close.
Because I have zero basis for comparison, having had none in either.
No, Goldy, come on. We wrote for the Oscars.
The big thing that happened to us was it was Hugh Jackman, right, who took off his shirt in front of us.
Yes. No,
and I think I've told the story on here about Michael Douglas and Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Tell it
Okay,
again,
well,
though. Tell it again. That was so fun.
Yeah,
So-
I'd like to hear this.
We were writing for the Oscars, and they, everything you picture about it, none of it happens. Like, we're literally in a room that is a closet with some kind of furnace in it, or something windowless.
Yeah.
And there's so little space that at one point they say, like, Hugh Jackman has to run in here and do a costume change, and so he's taking off his shirt and he's like, "How's it going, boys?"
Yeah.
And so at one point I had to use the bathroom, and I go out, and the bathroom's right across the hall, and they had just finished doing the 10th anniversary to the movie Chicago Tribute.
So pointless. And because the producers of the Oscars were also the producers of Chicago. It all
Okay.
felt so cheap and fake.
So I walk out in the hall, and in between me and the bathroom is a just off stage Catherine Zeta-Jones who's like huffing and puffing from dancing. And then Michael Douglas, her shorter husband, who's looking up at her, and he's going, I respect you so fucking much. and I'm just like, excuse me, can I get in the bathroom? And he's like, I have so much fucking respect for you. It's like, just a weird marriage moment. I'm trying to picture, like, in my marriage.
I know when that would ever happen.
Yeah, just to kind of, like, darkly tell my wife, like, it's a threat that I respect her so fucking much.
I love that moment. Yeah. No, so we got
Anyway, that's the highlight of my career.
we got no real thrills from that. And by the way, you're shortchanging the Hugh Jackman moment because he came and listen, there are all these sorts of rumors out there about Hugh, and who knows? But like, he came into that room and changed, not just his shirt, changed and stared us down the whole time. Like, he never broke eye contact with our group.
Yeah, and then I changed. I took the clothes he discarded, I put on.
It was like Bring Your Son to Work Day. His clothes were a little big.
They're just like, go in this room of disgusting animals and take your clothes off and show them what a real man is, and then leave. That was the undercurrent of the whole thing.
He was beyond ripped because he was full Wolverine ripped.
Yeah.
So
Man, that was like HGH like ripped.
So
Yes.
Meanwhile, we're like eating Lorna Doones.
eating Stelladoro breakfast treats in a corner. So Justin, let's get to what must have been a thrill for you was so Twitter. And now Twitter is now just a weird place. But back in August of 2009, when you started your page, Shit My Dad Says, and it just took off to the moon. I mean, what was that like? Because, going on to Twitter and experiencing some success on there was very intoxicating for me. And I can only imagine because you experienced that 20-fold. So what was that like for you, the initial sort of takeoff on Twitter?
Well, it was funny because I was living at home with my parents at the time.
And how old were you?
28. And I was like writing for magazines, doing like freelance writing for magazines, and unsuccessfully trying to write screenplays. And I would use anything my dad said that was like wacky that day. I would use as my like GChat, status. You remember when you used to be able to do that? So And then a friend was like, you should throw this on Twitter. And I didn't even really even know how to use Twitter or what it was. It was like just when it was starting. It was, the only person I knew who had a Twitter page was like CNN and Ashton Kutcher were the only two. And so I threw it on there just to kind of keep a record of it. And it had no followers for like a week. It had literally 0. And then I don't know what happened, but somebody retweeted it and I had like 300 followers after a day. And I was like, holy shit, like this is insane. Like I was calling people.
Totally.
I've made it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then but I didn't know how to check @ replies. I didn't even know that was a function. I just the follower count. And then the next day it was at 3,000. And then I was like, oh, whoa, something's happening. Yeah. And then the next day it was at 30,000. And then that's when I called somebody and I was like, what the fuck is happening? What's happening? And somebody was like, check your @ replies. And I was like, what? I don't know what that is. And they're like, the @ symbol, click it. And I did. And I was like flooded with all these, seeing like, remember like Follow Friday was a thing and stuff.
Yeah, sure.
And I think it was when it was at 3,000, I realized that Rob Corddry had retweeted it. And that was the thing that like started to just, because then by the end of the week, I was at 300,000.
Wow. What? Holy shit.
Yeah.
In a week.
And
then were you like, Dad, say something funny?
Well, no, because I hadn't said anything to him because I didn't think this was like worth saying anything about. And I was getting weird shit. Like it was like, somebody would message me like, hey, I'm a segment producer for Jimmy Kimmel. Will you and your dad come on? But it was like through Twitter. And all this kind of crazy shit was happening in my @ replies. And I was like pretty overwhelmed and didn't really know. And also I hadn't said to him, hey, I'm taking things that you say and I'm putting them it's like public forum. And so it at about 300,000, then I started getting like, there was a book agent that reached out and was like, hey, would you want to turn this into a book? And I was like, well, actually, I'm a writer. I'd love to write a memoir. And he was like, settle down. Like, he's like, let's just take the quotes and put them in a wall.
Yeah, let's make a list.
Yeah. And I was like, well, can I at least just try to like write something? But before I do this, I have to tell my dad. And then I told him, and like, he was 70. Imagine telling your elderly parent, explaining A, what Twitter is, which he had no idea.
Yeah.
B, about followers. And then, so it didn't even really register for him. He was just like, I don't want to do anything or talk to anyone. He was like, that was my thing.
That's a stupid.
Not even you.
Get out of here.
Especially not me. Yeah. And so that was kind of how it took off. And it was funny because from there, we started getting all this incoming from, like, I would get like heads of networks calling my like cell phone. Like at one point, Jason Biggs, I got an email from Jason Biggs, someone I obviously did not know, or it was like, can I take you out to dinner? And I was like, this is one of my friends like fucking with me or something. And, like, I want to play you in this show. It was wild. And so my partner, because I had a writing partner who we'd been working on like features with and stuff for a long time. And
so
then we
kicked him to the curb.
No. We went and we still my partner today.
Good for you.
We sort of had a manager because we had been working unsuccessfully in features, and that was kind of like how we started out.
Wow. What a crazy
whirlwind
week that must have been. And I love the idea of your dad saying, I don't want to talk to anyone. That's his one condition. It's like, I didn't save Jim Morrison's dad's dick to go and to be dragged on Twitter.
Yeah,
it's just the rarest of things, though. It's like a comedic jewel where it's pure, it's real.
Yes.
It's short. It's easy to understand, and it's a basket that keeps giving. Like, I mean, I think that's like what we're searching our whole lives for, is this thing that, like everyone thinks their parents say weird shit. You branded it perfectly, unwittingly.
Yeah.
Really, by calling it shit my dad says, as opposed to like, Gary speaks or whatever. Like, there's a lot of bad versions of it. But you just, succinctly and comedically framed it. And then, it's one of those things where today you go, well, you should remake it. It's still a good idea.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally. I agree, and like that week must have been so crazy. I love that you didn't know about @replies, and then when you opened that, you must have been like, "Holy shit!" Like
yeah, that was really crazy. The funniest thing I saw though in the @replies is there was one, and this guy did this for a month straight, every day at around 1:00, which was probably his lunch break. Is he would just @reply me, "Fuck you." Every single day at around like between 1 and 1:10, I would get an @reply that just said "fuck you" from this one guy.
That's awesome. Wow, I love people who are so committed to their anger like that. That's a great thing.
Did you go on TV with your dad ever?
No, so this is the best part. The closest I came is Letterman asked to have us on, and I was like an enormous Letterman fan. Like I just fucking loved Letterman, and so I was like, because my dad had said no to everything else, and I was like, so I came to him and I like had a whole spiel I was ready to get. I gave it to him, being like, look, I know the other stuff is the other stuff, but this is Dave Letterman. Like this is the Letterman show. They're like asking to have us on. Like I would do anything to go on Letterman, and my dad just goes, "Well, I wouldn't," and that was it. We never went on.
He's no Johnny Carson.
Oh man.
That's so fun. So now tell us a little bit about, so you have this fantastically popular Twitter page. People are coming at you from the entertainment industry from all sides. How did it turn into the CBS show? Break down how that started and how it sort of unfolded.
So we sold it we knew we had never worked in TV before. So we knew we weren't going to run this show or like even create this show really. So we sort of went around to like bigger producers to be like, hey, would you want to show run this and run it? And I remember before we did it, we were like, look, my partner and I made a pact. We're like, the one thing we don't want it to be is a multicam on CBS. Like it could be anything else, but it's just like, let's not do that. It just will not turn out well. And that was what it ended up being. We sold it to Warner Brothers, and they put showrunners on it, and the showrunners were good guys. I mean, like it was just like, my dad like curses, and he's kind of like, he's sort of nuanced in his way he shows love. And it's like, it's not something that's easily translatable to a multi-camera sitcom.
Right.
Yeah.
But we did it with William Shatner. Shatner signed on to do it.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Which was amazing working with Shatner for a year. He would just tell the most insane Hollywood stories that were like I've ever heard. They were fucking insane. And so that was that. So that show ran one season on CBS. So we did the pilot. It got picked up. And the best part about that is Shatner is actually kind of a little like my dad in a way, like just a goofier version. And at the pilot taping, I had to talk him into coming because I was like, hey, my dad wanted Gene. He was like, I'm only interested in Gene Hackman playing me or nothing else.
That sounds exactly like my dad. He loves Gene Hackman.
Yeah,
too.
dads love Gene Hackman. And obviously Gene Hackman was not going to play my dad. I'm not going to say yes to that. So my dad didn't give a shit about Shatner. And so I talked him into coming to the taping, and we were like at the pilot taping of the show. And it's like, you guys know, it's like all the network heads are there, and it's like sort of really tense. And the first scene, we're taping the very first scene. And all of a sudden I just hear someone talking during the scene, and they call cut, and they're like, audience, shh, but I don't know who it is. And then it goes again, and I just hear someone go, I wouldn't fucking drink that. And I knew, and instantly it was my dad. I could hear his voice because Shatner was drinking in the pilot. He has like he has a bottle of gin, and my dad doesn't drink gin. He just drinks bourbon.
Right.
Bourbon.
Kentucky.
Yeah. And I had to like go over there and be like, hey, you need to shut the fuck up. Like, this isn't your living room where you can talk back to your TV. Like, we're taping, there's mics above you. They're getting audience laughter and stuff. And we like got into it in the front row.
See, that should have been the show. You guys were making the show about him, and he doesn't care, but then he only cares when he sees what it is.
That is such a funny story.
By the way, if you want to go out with that at some point, if we ever work again, we should just go out with that.
just us trying to get my dad.
A memoir about you making shit my dad says.
Yeah. And then maybe we could actually get it on a network where you could say shit,
Right.
and that would be helpful. Because I'm sure as a fan of your Twitter page, which was so funny, I think as a fan, initial disappointment was when I heard bleep my dad says. Right away you're like, oh, the CBS is gonna fuck this.
Yeah, it was rough to like I knew kind of right off the bat that like this is gonna be dog shit. Like this is really gonna be a bad television show. It was just like,
were you in the room, like were people turning to you and going like, is this kind of how it would play out? Or were you just kind of like an afterthought who it's like, all right, we bought his book and he's not been in a room before, so don't worry, we got it.
I think it was like a little more of that. I think there was some like, did he say anything funny in this kind of situation? I don't think so. I've never been in this situation before.
What would he say about 2 dates to the prom?
Yeah, because we were doing all those like hacky sitcom stories of like a relative comes to visit and you have to pretend blah, 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 like, I found out our marriage certificate wasn't signed. We're not actually married. We were doing all those like fucking hacky sitcoms.
That's such a solvable problem. All right, now we're married.
Here we
go. No one knows. To be married, it's meaningless. No one knows if you're married. It's not a real thing. It's made up.
It's totally
But
fake.
in the defense of everyone else in the room, I also would not have been looking to me for any answers. Like I was not exuding confidence in that room.
Right.
I was not like someone where you're like, this kid's a star. Like it wasn't that.
Well, were you because at that point magazines were still a thing. Like I wanted to be a magazine writer. I thought, and looking at some of the magazines you wrote for, I thought those were pretty cool when I was, in the 90s and reading them. Was any part of you thinking, well, I can just go back to magazine writing?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was like, if this flames out, which it's like most likely will, I can go back to writing for magazines. Yeah. But it's like when you write for magazines for a while and you're like, profiling Chris Pratt, you're like, this fucking sucks. Like you start to get like so
like bitter.
It becomes the same thing over and over and over again.
The paragraph of the writer sitting across or waiting for the person in whatever restaurant or coffee place that the actor has chosen and saying like, he kicks back in an alpaca sweater with a oat latte. It's unbearable.
But by the way, all the actors now know that. They try to like create a scene in there for you. Right. When you walk in as the profiler, they try to like create it in their head so that they're like, he's reading Infinite Jest and he's blowing, like they all do that. Like, cause as the writer, you're always just like, hey, where do you want to meet? It could be anywhere. And they're like, oh, it's this tiny bar that's behind the kitchen of a Chipotle that no one knows it. They want that. So yeah,
it's all the British Office, like Brent mused.
Yeah.
He's trying to write the article for it.
Brent quipped. Yeah, I love that. So what year was the CBS show?
2010.
Okay.
Wow,
so it's funny that we, Goldy as well, we went through a similar dad-based sitcom disaster on dads. And it's funny, we had the opposite experience where you had your dad in the audience shouting, I wouldn't do that. We had Peter Riegert, who was one of the stars, who was playing my dad. And he would say, my character would never do that. And I'm like, he's my dad. Yes, he would. There was that epic knockdown drag out about the tighty whities. Remember that, Goldy?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Didn't want to wear tighty whities, which is so funny because then in The Sopranos, he's also wearing boxer briefs in the scene where he gets whipped by Tony, I noticed.
That's right. So as a little background, like my dad always wore those tighty whities that were so worn out that they kind of almost billowed like a parachute in gym class. Like they were not tight, but they were tighty whities technically. So we wanted to get those for Peter Riegert. He refused to wear them. My character wouldn't do that. It's my dad. Shut up.
His defense, he's like, it's like a 60-something-year-old man who doesn't want to be on national television wearing tidy white. Like, now that I'm 50, I'm a little more sympathetic.
Me too. Me too. But then, so Goldy referenced the scene in The Sopranos. Peter Riegert was in that, played Councilman Zellman, who Tony beats with his belt. And he's in underwear in that scene. And the funny thing was, I read about that scene that he was supposed to be naked and he didn't want to be naked. And James Gandolfini stood up for him and said, let him fucking wear underwear, like lay off him.
Oh,
so then I
nice.
felt worse about our tighty whitey thing. It's like, I can't escape this. They're trying to humiliate
I do
me.
remember that episode ending, and for some reason they were sleeping in the office. There was a renovation, and that they had raised the tidy whities as a flag.
Yes.
And then there was an extra who was working in the office who was so funny doing this. He solemnly lowered the tidy whitey flag and they folded it.
Yes.
Like it was a funeral, like a military funeral. And then they, with solemnity in his eyes, like gave him the tidy whities and they marched out. And I remember going like, I love that moment. Of course, no one cared.
Nobody cared. Nobody cared. So let's backtrack to something that was a little more probably of a pleasant experience for you. Was the book, which became I think it was a New York Times bestseller for like 3-4 months in a row. It was crazy in an era where that's very tough to do because you have so many celebrity memoirs and bullshit, but Princess Diana this and whatever the fuck. But so how did that, what was that experience like for you? Like how was it launching the book and then seeing it succeed so well?
That was the most fun part for sure, because the book was just, I got to put everything in it. It was very much me. It was like a memoir. And writing books is, I mean, Goldy, you wrote one, like it's gratifying because it's just you and your editor, and it's not like a studio executive where you have to like really listen. You can kind of just sort of be like, no, this is what I want to do. And they're helping you with it. As opposed to like giving you notes. And so that was crazy because the book debuted at like number 8 on the New York Times bestseller list. And I was like, oh my God, forever in my life, I'm going to be able to refer to it as like a New York Times bestseller. And then it just started climbing up the charts, which was crazy. Yeah. And it stayed at number 1 for almost like half a year, or I can't remember, but it was fun. It was like, I would do these like book tours and you get to like meet the people who actually read it, which was really fun. And most of the time, sometimes people would like project a lot of things onto my dad that weren't my dad.
Right.
Like one time I was like in Texas and I was at a book signing and this guy comes up to me. He's like, you know what? My dad hated Mexicans too. And I was like, what? That's not anywhere. My dad does not hate Mexicans. What are you talking about? Like, it was like, where did you get that from the book?
That's so funny. And yeah, I was going to ask that, and I think you just sort of answered it. But when you were touring around for the book, you must have had hundreds, if not thousands, of people come up and say, my dad actually, yeah.
But that's what makes it so great. Is like literally, it's the barrier to entry is like a dad.
Yeah.
It's brilliant in its simplicity.
Right. I think that's what really like the two things that really caught it's like everybody sort of has funny memories of things that their dad says, right? So it was really accessible. By the way, none of this was like planned. I idiot backed my way into all of this because it wasn't like I was like, what would be a great book or anything like that. Right. It was just like happenstance, and but it was accessible, and it also was just like this book that everybody wanted to buy for their dads for fathers.
Yes.
So like even to this day, that book came out 13 years ago. Every Father's Day, like shoots up the Amazon charts, and I get a check for writing this book.
That's so
Brilliant.
Awesome. That's so cool. Do you remember any, because I love this kind of stuff, do you remember any of the books that you kept off the top spot? Like it was like Dr. Phil or like something, and you're like, yes, get out of there, asshole.
Yeah. I think that I had bumped, oh God, who was it? It was some like British royal. It wasn't like a big popular one, but it was like, I just remember, and here's the other thing that I bumped. Kim Kardashian had a book out that was at the exact same time, and they were clearly trying to get this thing to number one. And it was like kept bouncing. It was like number 2 and then go to number 3. But it was like one of those things where they're buying the book. So they're like yeah. But the funniest story was my publisher also did that book. And so that book was about her and her sisters. And apparently the publicist told me that they had just been with Kim and her sisters, and they're sitting there about to go on stage of some show to promote the book. And Kim looks at the book and goes, "This is about us." Because she had never seen it. The writer of the book had never, like the credited writer of this book. And she hadn't even paid attention to like what the book was about or anything. She was like, this is just about me and my sisters. They were like, yeah. Don't say that when we go out.
Oh my God.
That's amazing.
That's unbelievable. So it's like she never even sat down to talk with anyone about it. Somebody just put it together without her entirely.
Yeah.
Well, that's satisfying.
Do you have a favorite or multiple favorite quotes from that book from your dad? I mean, is there like one or two that sticks out in your mind as the quintessential secretariat of quotes?
Well, one of my favorites, which it actually wasn't a popular one and nobody else really liked, and my dad loves documentaries. That's all he rents. And he rented What Happens in Vegas, the Ashton Kutcher movie, thinking that it was a documentary. And so the quote that he said to me was, "I rented that movie, What Happens in Vegas. I thought it was a documentary, but it's about some idiot."
I love that. Oh my God. That's fantastic.
There are some more like profound ones, but that's the one that I just thinking of him going to the video store and being like, "Yeah, I want this documentary about the inner workings of Las Vegas." And it had Ashton Kutcher on the cover of it and him not recognizing.
It's also like, how many minutes in did he get? Did he get to Dennis Miller sentencing him to 10 years of hard marriage? And that was what tipped him off? Like,
wait, do you know about that movie, Goldy?
I just remember from the preview, Dennis Miller's a judge who said, "Isn't that movie, or am I crazy?"
Yeah, I think that's right.
"I sentence you to 10 years of hard marriage," in the trailer. I never saw the movie, but that just being like an example of, as we are in this strike, an example of maybe the worst type of writing, where you go, they can end up married, but a judge, it's like a Seinfeld premise of like, the judge sentences him to be your butler. And it's like, come on, man.
Oh, Seinfeld, you mean The Greatest Show Ever? Yeah, that sounds terrible.
No, but that was like something that they mocked.
That's true.
Famously what they said, here's a dumb show.
Yeah, here's our bad version of it. So, all right, now this is kind of interesting to me. So you experience the Twitter success, the book success, you get the show on CBS, and then the show ends, and you probably have a couple of thoughts like, am I done? Is this it? Or how did you move on from the CBS show ending to your next opportunities?
Yeah. So after it was done, we had gotten an agent once the show had gotten ordered. So an agent, right. We had gotten
once they knew they could make money, they seemed to hop right in.
But when the show was done, everybody was like, staffing's hard. And so we went on some staffing meetings, and we had done a good job on, like you guys know, it's like sometimes you're on a show, the show's not working, but you're like, fuck it, I'll do the best that I can on this show.
Oh, I know.
As do I.
So we did. My partner and I, we did the best that we could on the show. And one of the other writers on the show got on another show, and he was like, "Hey, these guys are funny. You should meet with them." And then we met with the showrunner of this other show, which was called How to Be a Gentleman. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Yeah, yes, I do.
It went 2 episodes, but we got on staff of that, and then during that, we kind of like, at this point now, I knew what failure looked and smelled like, and I was like, "Oh, this is not going to be here for the long haul."
Yeah.
We gotta like be more proactive. And I wrote a second memoir that was sort of like a coming of age one, but it had my dad in it because I wasn't stupid. I was still going to have him in it. But it was more sort of like coming of age and about like, girls and things like that. And I wrote that book in the meantime while I was on that second staff. And that book became a bestseller too, sold far less copies.
Wow.
But we took that and we pitched that as a show. And that was kind of how we started to climb out of where we were.
Right. What was
That's
that?
great.
What did you call that show? Was it
That
named
show
after
was
the
called
book?
Surviving Jack. It was on Fox. Chris Maloney was the lead.
Oh,
that
right.
show.
I love him.
And
that
were
was,
you running that time?
well, so that show we did with Bill Lawrence, and he was supposed to be the EP and he was going to run it, but he had like several shows picked up that year. And he was like, oh, I'll run yours 3 days a week and the other one 2 days a week. And the first week he just wasn't there. Like, all right, well, here's kind of what I think the show is. And we were with the staff and we had our first table read and it went really well. And his other show exploded, like it blew up. It needed to be like completely reconceived. And so he was like, well, I'll come over when, I'll be there next week. But we just kept having like pretty competent table reads.
God, I would have done the opposite and been like, it's working. I'll be right over.
But the funniest part was that like, you guys know Makos, right? Susanna Makos.
Oh, yeah, we
we
love her.
Yeah, Susanna's great. So Susanna was the exec at Fox at the time, and I think she was like liking the way the show was going. But Bill, I told Bill, I'm like, you can't. They have to think you're running this show, because if they think it's me and my partner who have 2 years of TV experience, then they're gonna lose. They're gonna freak out. Like everything's gonna be under a microscope. It's just gonna be a disaster. So he was like, all right, well, I'll just come to the table reads. So he would come to the table reads, and you could tell he was experiencing the script for the first time at the table. Like he hadn't never read it or anything at that point.
Right.
Where he'd say turns of phrases like incorrectly because he didn't know what the next line was going to be.
Yeah.
But to Makos's credit, like she liked the show, she thought it was going well, and I think she kind of knew what was happening. And so we got to continue to make the show, but then the show did, after 8 episodes, got canceled.
Yeah, it's funny. I thought that show made it a whole season. I do definitely remember that title and that there was some sort of hoopla around that, which probably had something to do with you, the creators of Shit Might Bleep, My Dad Says. Surviving Bleep.
The funniest part about the bleep thing is that it was like $, hashtag, X, whatever. That's what they wanted to title it. But what they didn't realize is that you can't search for that on DVR. You can't set a recording for it. So it was not able to be DVR'd for the first 3 weeks until they figured out this like tech.
Wow.
Oh no.
God.
Wow.
That's just a very funny commentary on the state of that side of the business, to not see that problem coming down the pike. It's pretty humorous. All right, so then Surviving Jack, and you've done it. You've legitimized yourselves by repeat business, and now showing that you can come to the table with a show, table reads, people like, executives are liking you, remembering you.
He's the dad guy.
He's all about the dads. Yeah, I was never called that, even after a show called that. He's not the dad guy, so we know that. Let's find Halpern. So now you're on, as we discussed up top a little bit, you're on Abbott Elementary. You are show running there. You pitched the show with Quinta Brunson. So now you're having an opposite experience, where now you're on a show that is wildly popular and critically acclaimed. Like, what is that like for you?
It is so bizarre, because most of the things that I've done in my career have been like either reviled or not even thought of once. Like no one would even bother to review it, because who gives a shit?
You sound like Goldy.
So it's been really weird. I mean, it is like, we have a lot of like, I'm 42. We have a lot of writers on staff that are like late 20s, early, or 30. And so a lot of them, this is their like first or second show. And I'm constantly in the room being like, this doesn't happen. Like, doesn't happen. Like, none of you understand. I'm like getting angry. No one's done anything to even even merit this anger, but I'm like so angry. I'm like, you don't get it. Like none of you crawled through shit.
Right.
So it's been really. I mean, also I'm sure you guys have the same thing. Like inevitably, when you're a TV writer and you go somewhere that's like not in LA, and somebody says, "What do you do?" You're like, "I'm a TV writer," and they go, "Oh, what shows have you written for?" And like I know, I'm like I always will say to them like, "You haven't heard of any of these shows. Like, please don't make me go." And they're like, "No, I know, I'm sure I have." And then you go down your IMDb credits, they haven't, and they're like, "Oh." You know, like they haven't heard anything. And it's like humiliating.
Marjorie's Staycation.
And this is the first time I've ever worked on a show where people have heard of it. When and they ask me, they're like, "Oh, I've heard of that," or sometimes people have seen it, which is fucking blowing.
Even better.
Yeah.
Well, can we go back to just sort of the gestation and development of this show? Because those stories are fascinating. Like, it begins with you meeting with Quinta, right? And this is somehow like through a matchmaking or whatever, that now she's in the position you had been in 10, 15 years prior, having this book, that she's got this chunk of stand-up or this story to tell and is looking for a more senior person to help her tell it.
Well, sort of, actually. So we had cast her we did 1 hour-long pilot for the CW, the only pilot we've ever written. The pilot was bad. But we cast Quinta in the pilot, and Quinta was great. And at the end of the pilot, it was like one of the you guys have been in like testing where you test your pilot and stuff, and you get to like you see the dial go up and down. It was like literally any time in the pilot she wasn't on screen, it was like just this dramatic plunge to the depths of hell, and then she'd come back and it'd be like it claw its way back up to like halfway respectability. So we were like, hey, if you want to do anything ever. And we knew she was a writer performer, and she's really smart. We were like, you know, if you ever have a show you want to create for yourself, like, you know, let us know. And she came in about a month later, so 2017, and pitched us this Abbott, but as an animated show. She wanted to do an animated mockumentary because she was doing. We were doing the show called Ari the Quinn, so we were kind of busy, but we were doing animation, and she was doing some other show, and she didn't have time to like really like star in anything live action. And we were like, this is a great idea, but for whatever reason, everybody got busy. We put it down. And then about a couple years later, my partner was on the Warner Brothers lot, and he saw her, and she needed a ride home. She doesn't drive. And he was like, hey, you know, we were like thinking about this show that you pitched us. Would you want to do it like live action, like instead of animated? And she's like, yeah, I've actually been thinking about that too. And so that was kind of how it started. She came in, she sort of re-pitched it to us. We kind of helped her break the pitch, and that was how it all started.
Can you give us like just a tiny amount of what the pitch was? Like how do you introduce her and then she starts talking about her experience in this school, or how did it unfold?
Yeah, I remember it clearly. So yeah, the pitch, we started with like a little talk up basically about her and her comedic sensibilities, and why we really felt like she was the lead of a show, and why this show kind of like felt like it was the right time for this kind of show. And then she started it with this story about her mom was this public school teacher who had been a public school teacher for 45 years or 40 years or something. And she tells the story about going to visit her mom at this inner city school, elementary school in Philly, where they were having a parent-teacher night from 3 to 8. And it was like, she came there to visit her mom. She wanted to go to dinner, and literally no parent came. It was like, and it was like, she's sitting there for like 4.5 hours. It's 7:50 at this point. And Quinta's like getting fucking pissed. She's like, can you just get out of here? And her mom's like, 3 to 8, 3 to 8.
Right.
Like, she's getting really upset. And then at like 7:57, this woman comes in, and Quinta's like, oh my fucking God. Like, I cannot believe this. And then this woman has this this woman had just gotten she had just been working in the ER. This was like the soonest she could come. And she like has this really like powerful conversation with with Quinta's mom about how to help her kid that's like struggling in this kindergarten class. And Quinta immediately feels like the biggest asshole on earth. It's like, she realizes in this moment, like, this conversation is going to change the course of this kid's life. Like,
right.
the fact that this mom is like recommitted to like working on helping this kid and how to help them. And And that was sort of how we start off the pitch, is with that story. And
I'm almost crying.
I know.
I
me
know,
too.
that's a great story.
That's great.
That's
That's
touching.
it
great.
was really good. It was a really, really powerful way to like start the pitch. And she had tons of funny stuff within that story too, you know. And that was kind of how we had them hooked. By the end of that story, you could, you know, that you get that look on the executive face where you're like, oh, I'm gonna sell this in the room. Like, this is happening. And that was
That's
what we
awesome.
were getting.
And so that was at ABC.
Yeah, we actually sold it to NBC, ABC, CBS, and not Fox. We sold it to 3 of the 4.
Not
They all made
Fox.
offers.
Of course.
Good job, Fox. Nice one.
Fox passed. But we sold it to 3 of the 4, and then ABC really kind of just made it clear in their offer to Warner Brothers that they wanted it there.
Wow.
Awesome. Well,
And it was known, was there ever any talk like, and we'll see if she's the star of it or not, or were they pretty good to their word from the get-go?
Well, it was pretty funny because when Quinta pitched it to us, she wanted to be like the 5th lead of the show. And we were like, no, you got to be the lead of the show. Like, you got to be. Like, that's what we're pitching. Like, we believe in you. And she believes in herself. She just was like, Quinta thinks like a writer. She loves writing. Like, I think that's her favorite thing to do. So in her mind, she would have been totally happy being like, you know, the 5th banana who has like 3 funny lines an episode. If she
That's the dream, actually.
yeah, she
You're
loves
in a trailer all day, then you come to set and you're like, you know, there's a package for Dave. Give him 4 takes of that. Go back to your trailer.
Yeah, she was very. I mean, even if in Abbott, she was like, she's like, I'm ready for my character to be in just B stories now. Like, I don't need to always be the A story. Like, she's very much like, she's really great to work with. I mean, she has no sort of ego about it at all, and she loves writing. So like, it's more like working with a writer than it is working with an actor.
Well, I don't know. She sounds more like an actor if she likes writing so much. But so what? First of all, congratulations on the Emmy. And
Thank you.
What was that experience like for you? I mean, to be nominated, obviously everyone knows that's a thrill in of itself. But then you had to you know, you never want to say it, but you had to have an inkling going in like, hey, we might win this thing.
I felt like we had a good shot, you know, and but that was the first time I'd ever been nominated for an Emmy. So that was the first time I'd gone to the Emmys. Nothing I'd ever done I never even would pay attention when Emmy nominations came out. I knew it wasn't even like, maybe this year.
Yeah, I think Goldy got caught in Emmy traffic because you didn't know they were happening. Isn't that right?
Yeah, one year I was just coming back from the beach and I'm like driving through Hollywood. I'm like, what the hell? And then I get home and it's like, oh, it's the Emmys.
Yeah, how would I
Didn't even know.
The funniest part for me too was that like I have some older aunts, and one of them will always call. She like loves Hollywood and Tinseltown. She calls it Tinseltown, and she would always like call me every few years. She would call me during the Emmys. She's like, "Are you there? Are you gonna win?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not. What would I win for? Like what?" What? Yes, I wrote Chernobyl. It's me.
Right.
But
did you write Big Little Lies?
Yeah. But being there was pretty like surreal for me because, you know, I wanted to be the like, I don't give a fuck, who cares? It's the awards, you know. And I was that until I like walked in there and I was like, oh, I think we have a chance to win. This will be cool.
Right.
Yeah, of course.
And then you
Of
did.
course. And so then the show gets announced. And what is that whirlwind like? You know.
Well, the show doesn't win, so we lose to Ted Lasso.
Oh God damn it!
I know. We were sitting right next to their table too, and if you, it's somewhere in the clip is me going like this, and going into a clap.
Right. That's the equivalent of Belichick tossing his headset.
Yes, totally. We won for writing, and we won for some of the actors won. We won for casting. Like we won for some other ones, but we didn't win for show. And that was the one where I was so like I really thought it was going to happen because we were winning everything else going up into that last moment, and I really started to feel the nerves come because it's like, oh, we actually have a shot at this, and we've won all these other categories, and it's shaping up. And then I see Sudeikis stand up, and I'm like, oh, fuck.
A goddamn likable asshole.
Did you have another speech in you? Because that was, to me, the hilarious part about the Oscars is this year that movie won so much the guy ran out of speeches, and it just became like, if you ever think about maybe doing a movie and like, don't let them say you can't be a person who makes movies. And it's like,
and don't forget to get
we're
your
now
pets.
on your like D list of material here, man. Like you thanked all the people. I mean, did that occur to you of like, now what?
I think for Quinta it did, because she at that point had won so many things that like I think she was like, because I remember we won the Golden Globe for Best Show, and she got up, but she had already won like 3 things that night. And, and that was the first time I saw her. She was just like, turn to other people. Like, anyone else have anything to say?
I just want to someday get up and go, always let them tell you can't do it. Give the most confusing speech. I'm like, who is that?
That's great. What a quote. Oh, my God. Well, I mean, it's awesome.
And then go, fuck! I fucked that up.
Maybe one day, if everybody knows well in advance that Family Guy's in its last year, maybe we'll get another nomination. That's probably the only hope for it. Nope.
You won't.
There's that rosy outlook.
Yeah. Maybe when I'm 100, I'll be the most athletic I've ever been.
All right.
No, you won't.
That's a false equivalency. All right, but we have you here. We're recording this on a Tuesday, and it happens to be Tuesday, May 2nd, which is the day that the Writers Guild is now officially on strike, and you are on the board of the Writers Guild. So tell us exactly how long this is going to last.
I think one of the misconceptions about, like, because I get that question a lot about length and stuff, is one of the misconceptions about the Writers Guild.
Bravo.
Is, like the board we're listening to the membership. The membership dictates, how long what we want to hold out for, what we don't want to hold out for. So we're constantly like, all the proposals that we made to the AMPTP were all based off the survey that we gave to writers, that thousands of writers filled out about the things that were, causing problems for them, making it so they couldn't make a year. Like all these things were just coming from that survey. So in terms of the length of the writer's strike, it sort of depends on the resolve of our membership, what they want, and also the studios and what they'll come back to the table with. Because as the WGA released, I don't know if you guys saw it, they released that document last night that was all about what we asked for and their responses to it. And
that was a little shocking.
Yeah, it was shocking.
Totally
it was shocking. And our major proposals, they just they rejected the proposal itself. They wouldn't even counter to it. And that's, I'm not a negotiating whiz, but if you're saying, I'd like this, and somebody's saying, I'm not going to listen to you even talk, it becomes difficult to negotiate. And nothing that we're asking for, we're not even asking for what we used to have long ago when the business was much healthier. We're asking to sort of save the ability for people working on television shows to make enough money to live in Los Angeles, And so I think that's the position we're in. So I think length is determined by, our membership and the studios deciding to have a reasonable approach to this.
Well, it's so funny because you bring up this document, which anyone can look at. It's up on Twitter.
I saw it on Adam Conover's Twitter. If you're looking to find it, that's where I found it.
Yeah, no, it's a very interesting document, and it is shocking because I was shocked that they just simply refused to engage on multiple issues. Like it seemed like half a dozen things. They were just like, nope, we're not even going to talk to you about that. But then what was almost more insulting were some of the issues where it's like, which is a legitimate concern. It's like, well, writers are concerned about AI, and we would want to make sure you're not generating scripts based on our previous scripts, just using AI. And they were like, well, we don't agree with that, but we'd be happy to hold a yearly forum on the advancement in technology. And it's like, what do you... No, so now you're not going to engage with us on this issue, but you're going to make us sit through some like weird perfunctory yearly speech.
Yeah.
And they had that in a few categories.
I want to be in that. I have such a good take on AI. I feel
good.
Ooh.
Do it. What is it?
people are so worried about AI, and it's sort of the same people who think they're going to be having sex with robots.
Right.
Like it's the exact same thing. It's like, and then we're going to be fucking robots and watching all this great content and it's like, it's not going to happen like that. When people like, look at this thing AI generated, it's like, it's garbage.
No, I
It's
disagree.
all garbage. Like, I am not concerned that some fucking algorithm, like the Netflix algorithm, the vaunted algorithm, shows me nothing I like ever. Like this thing that supposedly mastered my mind and is like gonna keep me engaged does nothing but anger me. And it's like, it's the same thing of like, oh, this robot's gonna make me come so hard. It's like, it won't. It's not happening. Like humans know how to do it.
I couldn't disagree more. I could not disagree more with you on that.
Yeah, I think robots are going to make people come really hard.
Yeah, I cannot wait. No, but I think that the thing that was terrifying to me is, a few months ago, there was this story like, AI passes the bar at some, law school. And they gave like the score that it got. And then a month later, it was like not only passing the bar, but acing the bar like at Harvard. Like it had gone from like it passed the bar at some lower level college to a month later, suddenly it was better than anyone.
It's cheating. It has the answers.
Yeah, it sure does, but we all do.
So, I'm not that worried. If I had the answers, I could pass the bar too. It found the answers.
Ugh, I don't know. I think you're way off on this.
Well,
I think you're way off.
We'll see.
yeah, I was.
It's all fucking. It's the same thing we were hearing about NFTs a year ago, and then we were hearing about Bitcoin a year ago. It's always that like there's a grift of like this thing is going to replace this thing, and you better get on board and spend all your money doing it and all your time. And it's like it won't.
What's the
I
great?
hope you're right. I hope you're right.
I think I would argue that it's our job at the Writers Guild and as writers to do it in case, if that doesn't happen, if that doesn't happen, then great. I'm happy. But like, if you remember, 2007, 2008 strike, everybody was like, there is no internet's like YouTube shows, like it doesn't fucking matter. And even for several years after, people were like, what did we fight for? There's no shows on the internet. And now 60% of writers work on shows that are covered because we fought for that in 2007, 2008. So
Amen.
I hope you're right. I hope AI never becomes a thing.
Yeah.
But on the off chance that it does, we need to protect it.
Of course. I agree with that. But I think, to me, look, it's as someone, the whole thing, this whole strike comes down to like, what will you pay to keep this thing on a server? Like, that's what our careers are going to come down to, and the viability of it is just like, how much money can we get for how long you keep this on your server? Because we're not getting these reruns, these residuals, whatever that we used to get.
One little specific issue that interested me and Goldy, it should you as well, because it feels like it pertains to Family Guy writers, is this residual for like gauging how much a show is watched on a certain platform and then basing the residuals on that. It seems to make kind of logical sense based on what we know of how royalties are paid in the past. But imagine that, Goldy, if they could calculate how many times on Hulu, which I'm sure they can and do, they can calculate how many times people are watching your specific episodes on Hulu, and you would get something for that. That would be huge.
Yeah.
What a nightmare that would be to learn. They're just skipping over those ones maliciously.
Yeah, you just see the charts like this. Every year episode, then it jumps back up for every
hammock.
No, I mean, I think all of this goes under the sort of umbrella of our work being devalued, right? Like, I think that is the larger claim from the Writers Guild, is that like on every level, in every sector of the business, our work is worth less than it was before because they think it's worth less. They're paying us like it's worth less. But in reality, it's worth more than it's ever been worth to anyone. They're making larger profits than they've ever made before. If they want to play the game of shareholder prices and showing them exponential growth, that has nothing to do with us. We are making them a huge profit. And if that profit is made, we need to have an equitable share of it. And that's what we're saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
makes
love
sense.
that.
I was talking to David Goodman this morning, and he had said about the terms that were released He was saying that this is the first time that they've released the terms this early in the negotiations. Usually we don't get to see these. And he said that it's not uncommon for the first negotiations to look like this, but it's good for all of us to have this transparency so that the writers know what they're striking for, so that the people who aren't writers understand why the writers are striking, because you get to see how unreasonable the negotiations really are. It's like, here's what we're asking, and here's what they're not even willing to counter with. Like so I just felt like we'll probably have talked about that in our David Goodman interview, but it's important to understand that.
I think that's a huge thing too. And that's one of the things I love about the Writers Guild is like one of the ways that you can combat these like giant conglomerates that have thousands of lawyers and comms people is to just go full transparency on your side. They don't know what to do when that happens. It's like, oh, we'll just show everything. We'll show our members everything that's going on, and then they can see for themselves. And I think I've been really, really proud of the guild leadership and the comms team. I think that they've done a really good job of just like informing our members, hey, here's what we're fighting for. Here's what they're saying, and make up your mind. It's right there. It's you can look at it yourself.
Yeah.
And those are all great points, JC. Really nicely said before. So now you've been very generous with your time, and this is certainly a topic we could talk about. I'm sure we will as the weeks stretch on more and more.
But before we conclude this topic, I just
go ahead. I had one more question too, but go ahead.
I just want to seriously, and I'll make the same offer to Goodman. I am offering myself, if you need me, to go into any room and go absolutely fucking ballistic in a career-ending way.
Yes. My question was it's eerily similar to what you just said, and I think you just answered
I will be the cannonball fodder for this. If you just need someone to go fucking nuclear.
I was waiting for the right time to bring out this story for you, Goldy, because I was definitely going to bring it out here because a lot of people very often writing staffs that I've had and stuff like that will comment on that. They think that I'm very dark. Like it gets very, very dark.
Oh, wow.
And then the other day someone was like, you might have the sort of darkest outlook on life of anyone I've ever seen. And then somebody else goes, except for Goldy.
Was that other person my wife?
My wife.
That's so funny. But Goldy, when you said that, it's amazing. We were thinking about the same thing. I was going to ask Justin if, like, you know the negotiators. Do you have a mad dog on that crew? Like, is there someone you're like, we're sending in Brenda today? They're fucked. But now we know it can be Goldy.
Now you know if we play some WWE music and you can bound through the doors of the AMPTP.
Yeah. Or Natalie Imbruglia's Torn.
Yeah, there you go.
Just to confuse them. Well, anyway, Justin, I mean, congratulations on all your success. You've had a combination of all of it, meteoric rises, hilarious failures, and now you're sitting pretty on the best show on network television, best comedy for sure. So congratulations on all that. And thank you so much for coming in to talk with us today. And good luck in this fight for all of us.
Yeah.
No, thanks so much for having me. And also, my very first spec was a Family Guy spec.
Oh,
yes.
Wow.
Awesome.
Hold
do you remember
on.
I
got goosebumps just thinking about it.
do you remember the A and B story? Do you remember the story of it?
Oh, fuck. I think it was that Quagmire had an illegitimate child that came to live with him, and that it was bad. It was bad. It was not a good spec.
But by the way, I think it was better than you think, because I think we did that exact story, and I'm sure it was after your spec. So well done. Somebody got their mitts on it and said, "Let's take advantage of this writer in our guild." All right. Well, Justin, thank you so much, and best of luck going forward.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on. Good to see you guys.
Take care. Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, so great talking with Justin Halpern.
He was great.
Goldy, I know
Funny.
you got him here. Thank you. That was awesome.
Yeah,
what
he's
a guy.
Hilarious and a great guy.
A really good guy. Very funny. All right. And now let's get to a portion of the show we like to call Top 5. Top 5. Okay, this was mine this week. And it's top 5 professions that allow you to be an asshole. All right, I'll start. Number 5. Got to have a little self-examination here. Writer. I feel like people talk about, oh, he's got a writer's temperament. That means you're an asshole and everyone is supposed to forgive you because you're creating such genius.
So hard to come up with those ideas that I need to lash out at you.
Right.
Yes, the written word. Number 4 could have been higher on the list, but it seems like kind of a clam. Attorney.
Yeah.
I think
yeah.
enough has been said about that over
Yeah.
the years, for sure. Number 3, bouncer. Oh, God.
yeah.
Bouncers are so, they're just, it's like they're the little kings of the
Yes.
5 square
good one.
feet of space outside their bar, and they can be such
Sounds
assholes.
fun, though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Bouncing.
Yeah,
Hey,
just-
bounce.
Yeah, I bounce. I mean, if I could be like 6'5" and, ripped, maybe it'd be easier. Number 2, and this one I can't really figure out why, but I found this to be the case. Realtors. Like, I don't
Oh.
understand, like, why they feel... It's not even that they're outwardly assholes because they're trying to please you, but they get very hurt and offended easily.
true.
Like,
That's true.
you can work with a realtor, and then 5 years later, somewhere else, you buy a house, and they'll find a way to get in touch with you. Like, oh, you thought it was cool to buy? Okay, thanks. I know I showed you around 6 years ago. It's very annoying.
Yes.
Number 1, we've talked about this on the show before. Conductor.
Oh, right.
What is up with these entitled assholes? That's why Tar was such a good movie. Tar was so fun because they kind of they showed that, but I don't get it with a guy who just pushes play on a CD player. Like, how do you get to be the biggest
What?
asshole in the world?
Agreed.
All right, who's next?
It's me.
Goldie. Yeah.
Number 5, airline worker.
Oh,
Yes,
yes.
good one.
Yes.
They
yes.
live for it. Number 4, professional athlete.
Oh.
Because you're good at one thing,
Yep.
you can
Yeah.
be a dick.
Baseball players in particular.
Wow.
Oh, and hockey.
Oh,
And I'm
I
just
find
going
hockey
back to
players
my
so
high
sweet.
school. Just all the
Yes,
people who played
sure.
hockey were
Oh.
dicks. Number 3, a little bit of overlap. The bouncer, I'll widen it to just say security guard.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
It's just
yeah.
all, you can't stand here. It's like, anyone can stand anywhere. It's fine. Number 2, overlap, writer.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
okay.
number 1, head of the AMPTP.
Yeah. Union, yes. Union, yes. Oh, I love your list. It's a wonderful list. Sorry, that was my Bernie Sanders. All right,
That's great.
Go ahead,
Okay.
JC.
My number 5, surgeons. You know, they
yeah,
play
that's
God.
good.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
think they're God.
Number 4, debt collectors.
Yeah.
That I
That
mean,
kind of follows.
yeah, I mean, they're very scary too. When
It sounds like you've had some personal
when I was
experience
much
there.
younger, I was very scared of this one debt collector. I was like, take all my
Janice?
money.
Janice, it's Michael.
I've been trying to reach you.
Yes. Number 3, TSA or customs agent.
Yes.
You know, try to get one of those people to crack a smile. Number 2, lawyer, attorney.
Yeah.
And number 1, paparazzi.
Oh,
yeah.
good.
Fucking assholes.
Very good. Yeah. Oh, you've been hounded for years.
I can't get rid of them.
Please get out of my face. Let me live.
Okay,
all right, that was fun. What do we got next week?
Next week, it's top 5 dogs.
Ooh, I like it.
Okay, cool.
Individual dogs or breeds?
Breeds, I was going to say, but I don't know
Okay.
which we can make. What do you mean by individual
Well, I don't
dogs?
know. There's
my
like
dog-
Lassie and
Oh, no, I think
Clifford.
breeds. What do you guys
Yeah,
think? We
no,
can-
breeds
okay,
is the way
yeah.
to go. I think.
Okay.
I just wanted to clarify.
Should I put dog breeds?
There you go.
There we go.
That's the way to say that. We'll cut that in with AI. All right. Fun top 5. Looking forward to dog breeds next week. And now let's end the show, as we do every week, on a high note.
Oh,
Yes. And Goldy, to hop on your number one, my high note's the Writers Guild, baby. We're
Yeah.
doing it.
Good
We're standing
job.
up for ourselves. And we pointed this out before, but the strike authorization vote was 98%. You cannot get 98% of people to even say that Michael Jordan was good at basketball. There would still be more than 2% who would say, no, he wasn't.
Right.
So for us to have a 98% mandate
Solidarity.
is huge. And I think it's great what we're standing up for.
Yeah, that's cool.
I'll just second what you're saying, and that we're also lucky we have very intelligent leadership too. So,
yeah.
you know, I have a lot of faith in them, which makes it much easier to sit in my bathrobe for what could be an hour, what could be months.
I
Bring
hope
it
it's
on.
not too. I hope it's not too long. I'm gonna, I loved our guest. Justin Halpern was amazing.
Yes.
I love all of our guests, but I look at our numbers for the people who download and stuff, and I'm still trying to figure out why John Mulaney was. I mean, I get it. I love our podcast, but the fact that he reached out to us to ask to be on our podcast feels sort of like we weren't doing it for him. I felt like he was doing it for us. Like he listens to our podcast, he likes it, and it was almost like he's not going to need to promote his special on our podcast. I felt like he did it to help us, and it really, the numbers speak. They've definitely helped. It's definitely helped. So
It was nice of him to post about it too.
Yeah,
I mean, he
exactly.
didn't have to do that. He had a busy week. He did.
So he's
the numbers were through the roof.
They're
And Goldy,
still-
did that remind you of I don't know if we're teaching radio or radio's teaching us.
What's
One
that?
of your favorite lines.
Pretty sure we were teaching him.
All right. Well, that was a fun show. Thank you to our guest, Justin Halpern, who was
Yeah, he was
awesome.
great.
Thank you two for being awesome.
Thank
you
you.
all for listening. And we will talk to you again next week.
Oh, yeah. I am free next week.
That was fun.
And it stops right now.